I'm Al Filreis.
I'm Anna Safford.
And this is ModPoMinute, actually 5 minutes.
We're hoping to scratch the surface of a short poem that we like.
So let's get started. I'm here with Al Young, the Al Young, Al and Al. Thank you, Al, for being here. We're talking about one of your poems, a recent poem called Key to the Dollar Store. Will you read it and then we'll talk about it for a few minutes?
Of course, I'd love to. Key to the dollar store. Just tell me, who the hell am I? What powers do I hold? What right have I to say my, or mine, or me? All honey-glazed, all bulletproofed, and worshipful of any gangster I. The key to the dollar store hangs on my belt. Yes, my again. And what of roof, of bread, of loving laughter? What's in? My vinyl favorite, Booker Little, vintage, soothes me. He jars our ears with trumpet joy and stuff freed folks stash in cabinets. Never one to make too much of why we love and what. I love my powers. I might put you in my will.
That is a wild poem.
I know it.
I guess we should start by talking about all this stuff about my. I mean, the speaker claims to not want to do all this my stuff, but the poem is full of my.
I know. That's the problem with language and with human perception.
You can never take it away. It's always going to be there.
Yeah. For how long now? Centuries. All the wise people have been trying to let us know that we're all members of one another, as it were. That we're all of a piece, and certainly that's what the transcendentalists are telling. Not only with each other, but with all of the world, all of the nature, all of the universe. And I discourage my students from using the I that they think is themselves when they write fiction or when they write poetry. I said, look at an old family album, find a relative of yours that you never met, and imagine what she would say from 1888 or whenever the shot was taken, and put it in a poem and keep it down to, under 20 lines. And they hate it. They groan and moan, but they write their best poems because they've escaped from this prison of what they think of as being themselves. And what people don't realize, and what I came to realize when I started writing extensively, is that the I is a fiction. It's a construct.
And this poem seems to be about the fact that the I is a fiction.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So this speaker is, for lack of a better term, Al, smooth.
Yeah.
Right? All honey-glazed, all bulletproofed and worshipful of any gangster I. So your relationship with this speaker, you're at something of an ironic distance.
That was Gwendolyn Brooks, and that's what I loved about her. She could write in many, many voices and be convincing and persuasive.
Is this a Brooksian poem?
It was. I wrote it with her in mind. In fact, it was written for a special issue of poetry that was devoted to her work.
Wow. And so what are the speaker's powers? I assume these are the powers of invention and of imagination. Yeah.
Yeah. If you can imagine yourself in many different ways. And most people, when they cling to that, this is me and this is mine, they kill off the imagination and they kill off possibilities.
I got to ask you about the last line.
Yes.
It's so funny. I might put you in my will. Now, a poet who only has all the my, that's stuff that's gathered in poetry.
Yes.
It's kind of ironic for a poet to say, I'll put you in my will, because what are you going to get? All the my stuff, all the stuff I own.
Yes.
So it's pretty funny that if the powers in this poem are the powers of the imagination, then how can you bequeath that to somebody? It's just hilarious.
Well, I'll bet you in her family, people are fighting over who gets what, because she is
But it's value created by the poems.
Yes. By her voice and her imagination.
Yeah.
And they're the beneficiaries of that.
One last question for you. I mean, we could talk for an hour about this, but we're going to limit ourselves to 5 minutes. The first line, that's such a great line. It's a call me Ishmael kind of line. Great pieces of writing start by saying, who the hell am I?
Yes.
Right? So, but this one is just tell me, who the hell am I? How would you translate that or paraphrase that for somebody who doesn't read a lot of poetry?
The poet's powers have reached the point where she or he is questioning his or her own identity. And I do that all the time. What right do I have to write this poem?
Who the hell am I to write this poem? But I did.
Yes. And there it is, and you're stuck with what you got. And what you have to know is that I grew up, my really early years, in a community, Pachuta, Mississippi. It's still there. I think they have about 1,600 people now. It's a village. And I went and looked it up on Google or one of those search engines to see what surface.
There? Yeah.
And there was a girl, 12 or 13 years old, African American. She said, Pachuta, Mississippi is the greatest place in the world to grow up in. And I thought, why does she think that? Because it was awful. Once we got outside that black community, all kinds of things could happen to us. I had a mischievous cousin named Ray who lived in big city Laurel, and they would come to visit. And Ray would always make faces at the white folks and say all kinds of things. And he left us there to suffer, after he left town. And so Pachuta, and I've always loved that name, I have 12 hours of taped interviews with my grandmother, maternal grandmother. And I learned a lot about the fictitious nature of our identification with the I. She had a daughter whom I never met, but I saw in photographs that were just so beautiful. And she died. Her name was Aunt Florence, and she was murdered in New Orleans. She eloped with a gambler, and during a card game in New Orleans, he had given her his winnings to put in her bra and take out to the car. And somebody followed her out there. And even though she had a gun, this guy was faster than she was, and he stabbed her to death. And found this out from two of my uncles who went over to investigate what had gone on. And the reason I tell this is that we don't know who we are until we're tested, through experiences. And Gwendolyn Brooks always spoke. When I read The Bean Eaters, one of her early books, I realized how brilliant she was. And she talks about this herself in a video that's fairly accessible, that was shot by the Library of Congress, when she was the National Poet Laureate in Washington, D.C. And she was well aware of the powers that she held through her imagination by identifying with people.
I knew you were going to get back to this poem somehow in that story.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you did. This speaker is a Brooksian speaker, but it's not Brooks.
No.
And this is a speaker that's trying to contend with the problem of, if I don't know who I am, I still have the capacity to have the imaginative power to create this.
Have you been in a dollar store lately?
I have, actually.
Okay,
So I guess we should end by talking about the dollar store. This guy isn't just a dollar store person. He's got the keys on his belt. He's the dollar store manager or something.
That's right.
I think of the dollar store as the place where there's a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And this person is about me and mine and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he might put you in his will.
Yes.
Al, we've had a number of episodes of ModPoMinute, 5 minutes. Never had one like this.
Wow.
Thank you,
Well,
Al.
I'm honored and flattered.
I'm honored
Thank you.
too. Thank you, Al.
If you liked this episode, watch another and subscribe.
And join us for ModPo, a free and open course at modpo.org.